Hi, everyone. Hello, everyone. I hope you are there and this is working. This is the first time I've tried to use this software on Facebook Live, but I thought I'd have some fun tonight and do a live book reading from my book on Facebook Live. So this will be a live reading on Facebook Live from my book, Everything I Know About Business and Marketing I Learned from the Toxic Avenger. One Man's Journey to Hell's Kitchen and Back. So as many of you know, if you follow me, I wrote this book about some experiences I've had back when I was working at Troma in the early days of my career. And I had a great time working for this legendary film studio making low-budget, arguably crappy B movies. But I have to say that if it weren't for my experiences making these B movies, I don't think I've had the success I've had today as a CMO in the C-suite. Hold on a second. There we go. Sorry about that. It was repeating itself in the background. First time, I'm learning, but I'm sure this will get better. Anyway, I thought tonight it would be fun to read the introduction to the book as well as one of the chapters from the book, chapter 7. And hopefully you'll enjoy listening. And of course, if you are inclined to want to get a hold of your own copy of the book, you can purchase it on Amazon.com in paperbook or Kindle format. And of course, the easiest way to do that is simply go to www.toxicavenger.marketing, and that will take you right to the page on Amazon, which is easy to do. And of course, if you've already read the book and enjoy it, I would love for you to leave a review on Amazon. That's the best thing you could do for me to help me with the book sales, is to leave a positive review on Amazon if you've liked it. So without further ado, I will pick up a handy copy of the book here, and I will turn to the introduction to the book. The foreword is written by Lloyd Kaufman, the founder of Troma, but I'm not going to read for Lloyd. We'll have to get him to join me on one of these live sessions to read his foreword himself. So I'll start with the introduction to the book. And of course, I'll hang around at the end of the live reading, so if any of you are there and want to ask any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. But meanwhile, I will begin now with the introduction. Lights, camera, action. There are a lot of similarities between making movies and starting companies. Film producers and directors are as much entrepreneurs as anyone who might create or aspire to create a Silicon Valley startup. The purpose of this book is to draw valuable lessons in business and marketing from my experiences making movies. Not in Hollywood, mind you, but rather in Tromaville. Since my filmmaking days, I've been a startup co-founder, a COO, CEO, and currently a CMO, but I don't think I ever could have survived the C-suite if I hadn't had the experience of making B movies. Early in my career, I spent 7.5 years working for Troma, the low-budget film studio probably best known for the cult classic horror film, The Toxic Avenger. As I'm sure you must know, The Toxic Avenger is the heartwarming story of Melvin Junko, a lowly mop boy who, teased and taunted, falls into a vat of radioactive waste and emerges as the Toxic Avenger, the first superhero from New Jersey. As a movie, The Toxic Avenger was sloppy, gory, cheesy, tasteless, and perhaps even unsavory. But as a character, the Toxic Avenger, now affectionately known as Toxie, was remarkably endearing, especially for a hideously deformed creature of superhuman size and strength. In his 1986 review of the film, Stephen Holden of the New York Times said, "The Toxic Avenger, quote, may be trash, but it has a maniacally farcical sense of humor, and Tromaville's evildoers are dispatched in ingenious ways." The oft-warped brainchild of two Yale graduates, Lloyd Kaufman and Michael Herz, Troma has indeed been ingenious in creating a world outside the Hollywood norm, their own Tromaville, where the filmmakers are beholden to no force other than their own off-kilter creative muse. The proof of their ingenuity? Today, Troma Entertainment still lives on, over 40 years old, and arguably the world's oldest independent film studio. That monstrous creature Toxie, He's gone on to survive 3 sequels and a Saturday morning cartoon spin-off, along with the requisite comic books, toys, games, and apparel. A rumored big studio remake even threatened to star Arnold Schwarzenegger as Toxie. The Trauma team is notorious for giving young, inexperienced, aspiring filmmakers a chance to work, often way over their heads and always way under their expected minimum wage. But the experience, as they say, is priceless. It was for me. And as I hope this book will expose, my lessons from Traumaville extended far beyond my celluloid dreams. While many former Traumites went on to impressive and more traditional Hollywood careers, including the likes of actor Kevin Costner and director James Gunn, my own post-traumatic career led me down the path of a marketer and tech entrepreneur. I think I'm pretty good at what I do. I've had many great experiences in the business world since I emigrated from Traumaville in 1994. But if I am truly honest with myself, I must admit that I couldn't have done it without Toxie. Making movies is hard work, especially making movies on a shoestring budget. Actually, we couldn't afford shoestrings. We had the Velcro budgets. But I learned a lot. How to mix theatrical blood, how to make a ripe cantaloupe substitute for a head being crushed. But making movies also taught me a lot about business and entrepreneurship. In truth, a film production is like a startup on steroids. You go from screenplay, business plan, to product completion in a matter of months. You have to hire, fire, build up, tear down, raise money, spend money, rally the troops, fight deadlines and external forces, and make constant compromises, all the while fighting to stay the course and make the best film, i.e. product, you can. Teamwork and camaraderie on and off the set make a big difference, culture. And in the end, success or failure comes from ultimately finding an audience, satisfied customers. Nobody sets out to make a bad film, just like nobody starts a company with the intention of failing. And that's the introduction to my book. So I hope you enjoyed listening to that. And I will go on now and continue with one more chapter for this first live Facebook Live reading. And hopefully, if the feedback is positive on this experience, I will do more and read more of the book. But right now, I will go to Chapter 7, Branding Begins on the Ground Floor. Greetings from Traumaville. That was how every single bit of correspondence began. From the letters we type on typewriters and word processors in the early days, to the telexes, faxes, and eventually emails we would send. The lessons I learned about building a brand and a brand consistency while a member of the Trauma team have stuck with me for more than 20 years. What was this offbeat, off-kilter, often tasteless runt of a movie studio doing that was so compelling from the standpoint of branding? First of all, they were building a brand, something in those days arguably no film company except Disney had done before. Nobody went to see a movie because it was a Paramount picture or because it was from Warner Brothers. They went to see a movie because it starred Robert De Niro or Meryl Streep, or because it was based on a favorite book or was directed by Martin Scorsese or Francis Ford Coppola or another star director. The studio was secondary and largely meaningless to the moviegoer, except for Disney. People, especially families, went to see a movie because it was a Disney movie. And Trauma. Our fans would go see and still go see a movie just because it is a Trauma movie. Whether it is Redneck Zombies or Tromeo and Juliet or some other odd title they never heard of, as long as it was Trauma, our fans would show up. Why? Because, like Disney, based on the brand, they knew what to expect. That's what branding is all about. Establishing trusted consumer expectations. It doesn't matter if the expectations are for family-friendly fare or tasteless sophomoric gore. As long as the brand message is well established and consistent, it works. And a strong brand has to be rooted in something accessible, something consumers can relate to either by association or by aspiration, something that makes them feel that by supporting the brand, they are part of a community or tribe of like-minded consumers and fans. This is as true for toothpaste as it is for a cookie, or in this book's case, a low-budget independent movie studio. Trauma has achieved remarkable brand affinity over 40 years and around the globe by creating an inclusive universe, Tromaville, where everyone is part of the Troma team. This concept is hammered into the opening logo to every Troma film. The message is clear. This is a Troma team release. There is no I in team, and there is definitely no I in Tromaville. Well, I suppose there actually is the letter I in the word Tromaville, but aside from that grammatical digression, once you enter the land of Tromaville, you must always put the Troma team first, literally and figuratively. So that's chapter 7 from the book. Let's see, the chapters are pretty short. If you think I could read one more, I think I'll read one more chapter for you since you're all here and watching and listening. And hopefully you'll enjoy this, and in the comments tell me I should do this again with some additional chapters. I'll read one more chapter unexpectedly, since you've been a very nice, very good audience. You've been such a good audience that I'm going to read one more chapter. So this is chapter 8, and it's called The Power of We. We. If Troma were to publish their own Elements of Troma style, two things would happen. First, William Strunk Jr. would roll over in his grave. Second, the book would begin with the statement, "Never, ever, ever say I when speaking or writing on behalf of the Troma team. It is always we. There is no I." This rule was enforced by Lloyd as if it were gospel. More than gospel, as if it were the single most important thing above all other important things. As if by violating this one seemingly simple rule, one would be engaging in the most heinous act of corporate malfeasance. In Tromaville, saying I was a crime. You, as an individual, did not exist. Only the Troma team existed. You did not do anything. Whatever you think you may have done, you didn't do it. We did. We. If Lloyd caught wind of a letter going out with I this or I that in it, he would go ballistic. It didn't matter who you were or what the topic or contents of the correspondence was. You had to use we instead of I. Always, without exception. And that went for Lloyd's own correspondence as well. In Tromaville, though seemingly a royal pain in the ass, the use of the royal we reigned supreme. And it was great. It was a great lesson, not only in building a brand, but also in creating a culture. Think about it. By enforcing this one simple rule, the notion of being part of a team was deeply instilled in every employee at every level. From unpaid students and interns to barely paid senior executives, we were all collectively the Troma team. Everything we did was to support the Troma team. As important was the subtle message this consistent use of we instilled in the outside world, even if they didn't quite realize it. Something was different and special about Troma, and you could sense it from every letter or email that always started with "Greetings from Tromaville" and never put self ahead of team. And once you got used to it, it felt better to say we than I. We were a team, and saying I felt like you were taking something away from the group. On the other hand, after a while, saying we made you feel good. It reassured you that you were indeed part of a tribe, albeit an odd and sometimes creepy one. To this day, I prefer to say we in business correspondence, and it took me a long time after my tenure in Tromaville to not feel a touch of guilt when I wrote I in a business letter or email. In truth, we is often much better and more accurate. Just like making a movie, business is a very collaborative process. Unless you are truly a sole proprietor, it is unlikely that there are many, if any, business projects or accomplishments that are truly achieved by you alone. If you are an employee or an employer, you are part of a team. And for most things you might take credit for, just saying I is a bit disingenuous. And even if you have the lead or did most of the work yourself, saying we lets you share the love and sets a great leadership example. Even today, I often find myself cringing in meetings when I hear someone spouting, I did this and I did that, when I know, as does everyone else in the room know, that the person shining the light on him or herself had lots of help from other members of the organization. Here's an exercise. Go 48 hours deliberately using we instead of I, and see what happens. How does it make you feel? How do your coworkers and others treat you when you credit we for everything? And that's the end of chapter 8. So that's all I'm going to read right now. And those were a couple of chapters in the introduction of the book. And I'll stay on for a few more seconds if anyone has any questions they want to ask. I think Sue asked, why don't you utilize these thoughts in your book to the hurricane process? Well, yes, I'm reading this from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and we and the entire state of Florida were pretty devastated by the wrath of Hurricane Irma. She was a bit of a monster herself, and for those of you who have experienced any loss or discomfort from the hurricane, I hope that you keep your head high and you get all the help you need and get back on your feet and stay dry and safe. And it's one of the things we have to deal with at hurricane season. But worry first about the health and well-being of your family and friends, and not so much about your stuff. Your stuff can be replaced. You can't. Any other questions? Not seeing any other questions, I am going to conclude my very first Facebook live book reading. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll check the comments, and if there's enough positive comments, I will do this again and read a few different chapters. So thank you very much for tuning in. And again, if you're interested, if I whet your appetite to read the book, it's fun, it's funny, it's not your typical business and marketing book, although the lessons in the book are very applicable for anyone in any business. You don't have to be interested in movies. You don't have to know Trauma or The Toxic Avenger to get some value out of the book. And you can find it on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and most places you could find books. On Amazon, you can get it in the Kindle format or paperback simply by going to www.toxicavenger.marketing. And of course, if you have read the book already and enjoyed it, I'd love for you to leave a review. That would be great. And again, thanks very much for tuning in to this Facebook live reading from Everything I Know About Business and Marketing I Learned from the Toxic Avenger, One Man's Journey to Hell's Kitchen and Back. And with that, I'm going to say so long. Bye, Facebook.